A while ago I did a video about the Green Gizmo Pickup Re-Voicer, and I got loads of requests about building one of these actually inside the guitar itself. So that's what we're going to be doing today. For those who don't know, the Green Gizmo is a tool that I designed and built in the workshop so I was able to quickly and easily re-voice pickups for my customers. Essentially what we're doing is we're just adding capacitors in parallel with the pickup, which is increasing the pickup's capacitance. Now what that does is it shifts the pickup's resonant peak a little bit lower each time, which is different. It softens the top end of the guitar, but it is different from rolling back that tone control, because that really just cuts out a little bit of that top end but also diminishes that resonant peak at the same time. So this way you are just essentially getting a different pickup every time you click the little switch around. You're getting a new pickup voicing. So this little box can actually be a real secret weapon if you want to get more mileage out of the pickups you already have, but building it into your guitar means you just have access to those different voicings on the fly, which is actually pretty powerful. Okay, so parts we're going to need for this build is this little mini rotary switch that you can pick these up from Tater. I'll have a link down in the description. You're going to need some wire, so I'm going with a lovely shade of blue today. And the other parts you need obviously are the capacitors. So there's a range of capacitors that work well, sort of from 100 picofarad up to about 10 nanofarad. I'm going to be using my most popular values today, or the most popular values that I find customers always gravitate towards. There's going to be a schematic available on my fourth wall page, link in the description, and also in the members only section I'm going to show you a way to create some really cool custom voicings if you can't find capacitor values that are going to suit your needs. So there's something extra over there too if you want to check that out. But anyway, let's get into the soldering part of this video. Right, I've got the switch here now in my mini vise. Now what I like to do first is mark out which is the first contact that's going to be on the switch. So when the switch is fully clockwise, so at 10 say, I want that contact to have no capacitor to it, so it's essentially bypassed. I make sure I mark that one, and I mark which way the switch is going to be switching. So in this case it's clockwise. So I found this is my initial lug here, and this is going to be the first one I solder my first capacitor to. Now capacitor value wise, you can start at around 100 picofarad. I like to start a little higher, to be honest, because I find that as a really minimal tweak, that one. So anyway, let's get these capacitors on and I'll show you kind of what it looks like once it's all sort of soldered together. Right, so I've got the capacitor soldered on now in this sort of carousel style arrangement. So the next thing we want to do is I want to test the continuity, just to make sure everything's connected up how it's supposed to be. So I'm going to put one side of my multimeter on this ring here. I've got it set to the continuity test, and then I'm going to tap around the ring. And that tells me that ring is completely connected all the way around. Now, while keeping that on the ring there, I'm going to tap all these lugs. Going through this, I do not want any beeping. If I got a beep, that would mean the ring is shorted to one of these lugs, and you don't want that, so you're going to have to go and investigate what's happening there. But yeah, everything is connected as it should be, so that's cool. So now what I'm going to do is I will show you how to install this in your guitar, where to put the wires, and then we're going to do a bit of testing after that. Right, so I got this awesome PV Raptor Plus here, all ready to go. So I've put the Green Gizmo circuit in here. Now this is the 5-way switch, and I've got the volume control just around here. Now what we've got to do is I like to connect the ring. Let me just cut some of this awesome blue wire. Where's my strippers? Here they are. We'll connect this ring to ground first. Let's do that. So I'm going to go here. Okay, cool. So now this wire here going from the ring is just grounded to the back of the volume pot. It's pretty much the main grounding point for this whole guitar. Now you've got the center lug here in the switch, which is connected to nothing currently. Now this can either go to whatever pickup you want, and I'd probably aim for the where where they connect to the 5-way switch here. So you've got your neck, middle, or bridge pickup. For this particular one, I'm going to connect it to this lug here that's joined together. Now this is the lug that, or the main lug that goes out to the volume control, basically to the volume control input lug. That's where I'm going to connect it to. So it's going to be working universally across all the pickups, and that way it's just going to be a lot easier to demonstrate. But you might want to do it a different way and just have it on just the middle pickup or just the neck. Most people I know, well, the most of the time I do this mod, it's for people wanting to alter the sound of their bridge pickup. So that might be where you go. But for this one, I'm going to do it here. You could even connect it to the input lug of the pot. It doesn't actually matter which way, but just thought this was nice and close by. So okay, cool. So let's get this guitar back together and then let's check out what it sounds like. Now, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps get these videos out there, and smash me a like as well. It's great to be able to do this sort of stuff for a cool community that's growing every week. So I'm really appreciative of all the messages and just cool comments that come through. Thanks heaps for that sort of stuff. I do read the comments. I can't reply to everything and every single email and message that comes through, but really appreciate it. So thanks heaps, guys. Okay, so we're back with the PV. It's all set up and ready to go. I've installed that Green Gizmo in there. Now I've set it up so it's universal, so it's working across all the pickups. And this might not be very practical for a lot of guitars if you want to just tweak a couple of pickups, or just the bridge one, which is the most common one I install this mod for. But it's gonna, for this application, it's gonna be cool. So anyway, we've got the neck sound here. Oh, so the sound I'm using is a edge of breakup sound. That's my usual go-to sound. There's pluses and minuses for using a pristine clean sound to do comparisons, along with using a lot of distortion to do comparisons. I just tend to gravitate towards a sound that I use all the time. There's no best sound for doing comparison. A pristine clean sound isn't always the best sound for comparing different mods and things like that. Anyway, that's another whole video right there. We're on the neck right now. So this is our neck stock sound, and you're going to tell it's quite bitey. And a nice tweak for that is just a couple of clicks around, and it shaves the top end off, but it keeps the power of the pickup. And that's the difference between this and a tone control. It's not just diminishing that resonant peak. Anyway, that is for me a way more comfortable neck tone. Really cool. I really like that sound. For the bridge humbucker, this is it with it off. So all the way on 10 is essentially off, and that way you can kind of hear the difference. You might want to make that sort of a bit darker and a bit less aggressive and have a bit more mid push. So maybe a bit lower. Let's put it on like 4. Okay, so that sounds really cool. So at the extreme end, it's definitely a lot darker, a lot thicker. But you can still hear the power of the pickup hasn't been diminished compared to all the way on. I think it's a really cool thing to add in. It's pretty simple. It's pretty cheap, really. You know, it's only a rotary switch and some capacitors, and that's it. And then you've got a really powerful little way of getting some new sounds out of your guitar. And you kind of get used to the sounds that you like. I really like that neck pickup on about 7. Let's go all the way around to the extreme. So that would be the highest setting with the neck pickup. To me, it's way too dark, but hear how it's got that honky mid-range coming through, which you wouldn't get if you just roll the tone knob down. Actually, that sounds really cool. I quite like that. Just want to go through a few questions that keep cropping up about the Green Gizmo, and the first is that it's the same as a Veritone circuit, but it's actually way simpler than a Veritone circuit. So there's a whole bunch less going on. All we're doing is adding capacitors in parallel with the pickups. I get a lot of emails with questions about the capacitors in parallel when you're switching between pickups, like when you've got two pickups in parallel, like positions 2 and 4 on a Strat, and what's happening there, is that going to make it a lot darker, and the problems around that sort of thing. My answer is always, don't try and think of the capacitors as being there. Try and think of it as you are just installing new pickups with a different capacitor value, and that way the capacitors don't really have much to do with your thought process. It's just you're switching between pickups with a higher capacitor value than what you were before, and I think that makes it a lot easier to sort of process what's going on. And the last thing is, a lot of requests have come through of making the actual Green Gizmo pedal foot switchable, and while that does seem really cool, it's not really that practical, because firstly there's no LED on it, so you're not actually going to know. A lot of these voicings are actually kind of subtle tweaks, so you're not really going to be able to know if it's on or off really obviously, and then you're going to have to add, you know, DC power or battery inside, so you've got a little LED, and it just makes the whole thing more complicated. Really, the Green Gizmo itself is a tool to help you voice the pickups in your guitar, because I really like getting things right at the source. I know you can use EQs and boosts and different devices along the signal chain, but if you've got your guitar sounding right, then you can just take your guitar and plug it into whatever amp that might be around, and you know what you're going to get straight away. It's not that practical to often carry around a whole bunch of extra gear just to make your guitar sound how you want it to sound. So for me, getting it right at the source, at the pickups themselves and at the guitar itself, is really important. Make sure you give this one a crack. Just go and grab one of those switches and some caps and experiment. You don't have to get the schematic that's on our fourth wall page. You can just play around with different values and find out what you like, because the experimenting part is the most fun part, and every guitar is different. So you might find that there's certain values that really fit the pickups that you have already got in your guitar. So give that a go and let me know in the comments how it goes, and we'll catch you in the next video.